Hello, beautiful Lael.
I am.
This is a treat. Usually we are on a computer, so being in person is beautiful. Thanks for having me in your home.
Of course. You're welcome to my little dungeon room that we're currently in.
Welcome back to the Empowered Podcast. We've done a couple of
Happy to be here.
episodes, and if you're on YouTube, hello. Today I just wanted to have a chat with you just about all the things, and I'm sure we'll go off topic many times, but I did want to talk to you about your new book, Own Your Story. So let's start there. Tell us about why you wrote this book.
This book kind of came about, actually, I often tell a story, it came about because of COVID, because, you know, when the world was kind of shutting down and everyone's freaking out about what are we going to do and how are you going to make money, but also I was just seeing so many parents that were deeply distressed because they had to be at home with their kids all the time. So there are a lot of parents that were like, this is full on. And so lots of stuff was coming up. People were having big trauma responses. They're having to be with their kids all the time. And as everyone was pivoting, I was like, I can't, there's only so many people I can speak to in a day. So I created this course, this 8-week kind of parenting immersion, which was really about just giving parents some tools and stuff to navigate being with their kids. So I did the first round, went really well. And then it just kept coming. People just wanted to keep signing up because they wanted some support. And then through that, I just began to see that the main themes that we were looking at, I kept seeing the same interesting things keep turning up again and again and again, which was we could talk about tools to work with our children, but unless we addressed, which we kind of know, our own stories and what was modelled to us, a lot of it wasn't going to change. So I began to see these imprints or these stories that we were carrying from our childhood and how they turned up in our parenting. And just no matter how many times I ran that course, the same thing popped up again and again and again. So I was like, there's something in this, because we can understand the tools and we can respond to our kids with kindness or set boundaries or listen to their feelings. But if you are still carrying a massive story around, you know, success equals earning lots of money, or don't deal with your feelings, like, you know, just repress them, or, you know, anything to do with, you know, just who you are as a human that we haven't kind of come to terms with, well, it's going to show up in our parenting. So that's what kind of really fueled the thinking behind it and the philosophy behind it. And then some publishers reached out to me and said, would you like to write something about it? And I realized, you know, it's not a parenting book, it's a book for everybody, because we all have imprints. And really it became about understanding our own story so we can change what we want for the future. So that's where it kind of came from.
Amazing. In my head, I'm like, oh my God, of course. Like, let's finish the podcast. That's pretty much it. Just do the work on the imprints and it impacts every area of your life.
Yeah. I look at it, there's so many things that impact and influence who we are. We know that trauma, the way we were raised, like parented, whether we grew up in a behaviourism paradigm or whether your parents were really permissive. Like, we know all those things have an impact. The demographic you grew up in, the school you went to, you know, there's all of that. And then there's your bigger intergenerational stories, you know, your grandparents, your ancestors, where they've come from, like all of those things contribute to who we are. And I think the book is really just a bit of a look into some of the core imprints that we have and how some of them work for us, how some of them don't, and then how we can work with them to either transform them to be what we want them to be, or to be able to harness them to be able to move towards where we want to be. So I think it's just another insight into understanding ourselves.
So when you call it an imprint too, is that a belief system or is it something different?
So it's just the word I use because it makes sense to me. It's a belief system or a story that we take on board as children and we believe to be true. So I often explain it like this. So we've got imprints on everything. So simple ones that people understand. Like, if you grew up in a family where when anything happened, there was an argument, a disagreement, and your family's imprint was, let's not talk about it. We just pretend it doesn't happen. We turn away. We just push it under the rug. And so that becomes an imprint that when anything hard happens in your life, you're like, oh no, we just don't deal with it. Right? So we turn away. Equally, you could have grown up in a family where when something goes down, people get angry, they yell, and you grew up in an environment where yelling was normal and you see it as a sign of love. Well, if you love someone, you yell at them, and that shows that you're really passionate and you care. So again, you look for that as you go out into adulthood, going, well, if you love me, you'd get into a fight with me, and we pick fights. There's those kind of things. We have imprints around food. You know, food was a beautiful...
Don't we all?
If food was something in your family that was a sense of celebration. You all come together, you share a meal, you savor it. That could have been a beautiful imprint, which was just like, this is something that's beautiful about coming together. Equally, food could be one that was of high stress. You had to eat everything that was on your plate. Your body was commented on. Like, that could become an imprint that doesn't work for you. You could grow up in a family where your family really valued caring for others. Maybe they did charity work, maybe they gave stuff away. That becomes an imprint around, hey, it's really important to help others. Equally, you could have grown up in a family where the imprint was, you are only successful if you get the best grades, you earn the most amount of money, you drive the best car, you are only worthy when you're achieving. So you pick a topic, pick a theme. We've got imprints on all of it. And again, some are good, some don't work for us. And I guess what I find is that until we understand those stories and those imprints of where we've come from, we will try and often make changes in the future, but they often don't last because we actually have to go back to the root cause to understand it. And then once we get it, we can say, this is where it is. You know, and I think what really got me understanding this work was really actually about money, because that was one of the things that I really struggled with for a while. I kept trying to make money and then it would just go again. And my husband had a messy story around money and we could never get in front. And really, when I began to look at this work, I began to realize that my imprints around money were not good, right? I grew up with a dad whose story was money's dangerous, really. Basically, he was like, people have money are assholes. So you don't want to be, and I'm like, I don't want to be an asshole, so I don't want to be someone, that looks like that. So, money's dangerous. And my mum's imprint was, you must work really, really hard just to get enough. So my story was, I must work just to get enough, but then you can't have too much because then you might be an asshole, right? So that's the belief systems I had on board around money. And I realized no wonder I'm never going to get in front or change this, because what we do, and I think this is the important piece, is we often stay loyal to our imprints, particularly of our family of origin, because that means belonging. And we're all hardwired for belonging. So we often stay loyal to the imprints, even if they don't serve us and even if we don't like them, because we're like, but that's what I have to do to belong. So for me, the big work was unpacking and untangling these stories around money to shift and change that imprint to know, hey, it's safe to earn money and money can be a good thing and I still belong in my family. And then as I began to do that, I was like, well, if I can do this around money, I can do it around everything. And then that's how it began to shift and change.
Oh, it's so powerful. It is really the root of everything, because like you said, if you don't address the imprints, your nervous system will just keep you coming back to safety, which is, even if it doesn't serve you, because it's like the familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven.
Absolutely. We stick with what we feel safe and what we know to be true, even if it doesn't serve us. And you're so right. It's one of the biggest things. In order to shift and change these imprints, we have to work slowly with it, because we have to begin to gather new evidence that it's safe to move and for it's safe to look a different way. But, it takes a bit of work and a bit of disentangling of the stories.
I think that's a really important point that you just mentioned, though, because what I see online, and I know so many women and mums that I support resonate, is it's like, okay, in 10 weeks, we're going to have you living this different life and you're going to be this person that does all these things, and then you gain a little momentum, maybe it's the adrenaline, you start making a few changes, you get to the end of it, and then life happens because you're out of this vortex, and then it's like, you feel shame or you feel guilt because you're not doing what you said you're going to do. And like, it's such a long-term journey. And like you said, there's so many layers. And often do people come to you when they're at the beginning of this work, they get into it and they're like, oh, like there's quite a few things here for me to start to unpack?
I think for a while, people would come to me because, and I was working a lot in the parenting space, they were struggling with parenting. So they were like, my kid won't get in the bath, or they won't sleep, or, they're yelling at me, or they came because they're like, I don't know what to do. And so they would come because they want parenting tools, but then we would start and then they'd go, oh, this has got nothing to do with my child. And I used to joke, we'd sell this 8-week parenting course. I'm like, but actually really what it is an 8-week journey of your own inner work. But if I sell it like that, no one's going to come, because they're like,
it's like,
this
takes 10 years. Oh, I'm not in. Like,
no.
I'm not doing
I'm
that.
fine. I'm totally fine. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just my child that won't do anything. And so I think, began to really see that what was needed. We all move at the pace that feels okay for us, right? And I think we're all on different timelines, different trajectories. There's no right or wrong, and you have to go with what feels okay for you. But I find that people would come because there was disruption somewhere, which is, we didn't feel good. And then I think once you start, peeling back the layers, you're like, oh, there's more work to do here. And, children are a really great motivation to do your inner work.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that kind of mirror back to us that big stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you explain imprints too, because sometimes when we do this work, and this feels resonant for me, you start to look at the unhelpful imprints. I don't like to call them positive and negative, and you probably don't either, because they teach us something. But we tend to look at the ones that are unhelpful or haven't helped us. I love how you bring into it, but what are the great imprints also? Because again, when we peel back the layers with this work, we look at our parents and what we got and what they got, and have a lot of compassion for them as we build our own self-compassion. And so what is a positive imprint that you were given?
Good question. 100% courage. I watched my mum particularly. She is a really intuitive and woman who would really listen to herself. So if she had a big hit of, I need to go learn this or I need to go do that, she would just do it. So I watched her from a young age take risks, be brave, travel overseas by herself, go and learn something new, like integrate it. So I had a beautiful imprint from her around being courageous, like jumping in, giving it a go. It was never you have to get it right, you have to get it perfect. So I had that beautiful imprint. And especially my dad too used to say, I do not care what you do in the world as long as it brings you joy. So one of the most beautiful imprints was go be you, like go find who you are, go out in the world. So he used to say to me, I don't even care if you're a garbage truck driver. That makes you happy, do it, right? So he was really about go be you. My mum was very much about follow your passion, what lights you up, what you're curious about. So that's been an amazing imprint for me. Like I've been an entrepreneur for like 30 years now.
Yeah.
Started my first company when I was 20 because I was like, of course you can, you just do it. I mean, I knew nothing.
Yeah, but how good is that?
But you're just like, that's what you do. And what's funny, in my family of origin, so me, my brothers, and my immediate cousins, all of us run our own businesses. Like all of us have run our own things. It just seems to be what we do in the family.
Didn't?
They did. They ran their own stuff as well. Yeah. So that was a beautiful imprint that I had from my family. It was very much about, courage, following your passion, giving it a go, those kind of things. So, yeah. And my family of origin was very safe in the sense of there was no judgment. Everyone was accepted. We were the kind of house that if, one of your friends wanted to leave home, they'd come to your house, and so, and that was very welcomed. And that's a beautiful imprint that we've passed on to our kids as well. We are the house where people come, and I love that. So there's a lot of beauty around deep acceptance and courage. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's really important for modern day mums who are listening, because so many of them want to start their own thing, but they have this pull that I think the messaging is you have to be with your kids 24/7, really present and conscious parent, so you have to be with them all the time and you can't do anything for yourself. But hearing you say that my mum, lived that imprint and also gave it to me, I think that's really important for mothers to chase their dreams, because in doing that, they're showing their children that it's safe to do that too.
100%. And, there's seasons of it. Like when my kids were little, I've always been running my own businesses when I've had my kids, but there were times where I was like, I don't have much energy to give it. And so it would just tick over the bare minimum. And then when my kids got a bit bigger and there was more space, I could put more energy into it. So there was definitely an ebb and flow as my children grew. And then, as we were talking about just before, now I absolutely believe that there is always enough time. You're never going to miss out. And really, it's only been the last 4 or 5 years for me where I've really been able to sink my teeth into work, because my kids are adults now and they don't need me. My youngest is about to turn 18, and there's been more freedom for me to move within it. And there is not one part of me that looks back and goes, I wish I had worked harder on the businesses.
Yeah.
I am so grateful that I stayed and mothered in the way that I wanted to. And without doubt, there were days that were so boring. And there was times where I was like, this sucks. Like there were so many times where I'd be sitting there going, I want to get out in the world. And yet there was also another part of me going, this is actually a really precious time. You have both feelings. And I would just kept reminding myself, your time will come, there will be space and time, and there is, and there was. And I look back now and go, it's probably good I didn't do it back then. I wouldn't have had the wisdom and the embodiment that I feel I have now.
Yeah.
So there's something so powerful about mothering, which teaches you about servitude on this really deep level, which is about giving without needing anything in return. And I remember thinking when my kids were little, if I can master this consciously, I can do anything. And that, I feel like, was just the most extraordinary training for me to get to a point about, you know, just moving through life in different ways, going, what really matters? What matters is these little people in my world. What really matters is how well we love. You know, does it matter if I make money? Well, it would help, but it actually doesn't matter. What matters is this. So I think the perspective and the doing it and having the days of frustration, but then also coming back to, but this is actually what I'm choosing, I would not change one single bit of it.
And I guess now too, you have the wisdom to support other people going through it because, you know how it feels and what it's like. And I think that is the beauty of entrepreneurship and why it's so important to learn about your imprints and what's actually driving why you want the success or why you want the thing. Because, I know from my own journey and what I help other people with is what do I actually really want, or what is this need being met right now, and is this the way that I need to meet it?
Yeah, I think that is such an important point, and because we have to get really clear on our why around it, because for a lot of people, business or being successful is really around, and if I get there, then I'm enough, you know, and then people will see me and I'll win awards or I'll know that I'm successful. And I think it can be a really sticky place to stand in.
Yeah, totally.
And yet sometimes that drives great success in people, you know, and it's interesting about what fuels us. It's funny, I was chatting to Libby Trickett the other day, the gold medal swimmer, and we were talking about this, and she told this story that was so poignant. She was saying to me, what drove me, because we were talking about those childhood imprints, and she said, what drove me is my lack of relationship with my father drove me to be like, if I can become the best in the world, then maybe he might see me, right? So that was the driving force. She said, but behind that was this thing of, I'll be enough if I can get there. And she said, the moment I won the gold medal, she said, I hit the wall, turned around, and I saw a number 1 against my name. She said, I didn't feel elation or success. She said, I felt relief that maybe now I don't have to keep struggling to be enough. And she said, but it didn't give me what I wanted, because it was never about that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, which is the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
It's never actually often about that.
No.
And I think when we can get clear and clean on what is the reason I want to do this, then that makes a massive difference. And for me, it's always been, I want to help people. I want people to feel the possibility of life. I want them to feel inspired. I want them to live their best lives. I want them to heal. That's always been my driving force of doing what I do. And you know, it's great when your courses sell out, and it's great when you make an impact. But at the end of the day, I think for me, I just think if I can be of service and I do it in a way where it helps people, then that's extraordinary. That's amazing.
What we want from life, isn't it? I had this exact discussion with a girlfriend and why I'm about to do more values work, because I have seen it time and time again with entrepreneurs, and the feeling that I get as well when the work you're doing isn't values aligned. And because I think if you get into entrepreneurship to help people, you genuinely love doing that and you can make money from it. But there's so many businesses that start, they make money, but maybe it doesn't feel good because they were just chasing the money or the success or... And
look, you know, we live in a world where there's a dance, right? We need money to survive. And so sometimes we're going to do things that we have to just to put food on the table. But if you can find a way to do something that makes a difference or that fills your heart, then that's amazing. Like how extraordinary that is.
Well, and it doesn't have to be entrepreneurship, does it?
No.
Like, if that's just working wherever you want to work, then you absolutely do that. I think there's so much pressure. Though. Social media, honestly, I'm really ready for it to go in the bin. I'm ready for some sort of algorithms to change so that we can just operate differently. Because I see so many, and I feel the pressure often as well, that think they have to get on and capture everyone's attention to make money. And I think it's really...
Because, you know, here's what I've learned.
Tell me your wisdom.
In my old 50-year-old age. And I do believe it's true. Yes, yes, your image can matter. Yes, having a good website helps. Yes, you know, social media. I'm old enough to remember the times where I used to have to go and put up flyers at cafes for workshops, or I was about to say, no email. I'd have to send them a letter in the mail to people to let them know about things I had going on, right? I mean, do you know how long and laborious it took? I'm like, and then social media, how brilliant, because you can put up a post and people will come to your stuff. So I have a love-hate relationship with it as well. I'm like, yes, it's amazing. Yes, it's annoying.
Yeah.
But it's advertising. So if you're in this business, you've got to play the game of how do you get your message out there.
That's right.
However, those things matter on some level. But what matters more than anything is your energy.
Yeah.
That is it, 100%. If you are not aligned with what you're doing, if your energy isn't in that flow of wanting to create, no one will come to your stuff.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
They don't come. If we're coming to it from the wrong angle, if we're coming to it from just money and greed and this is what I want, often it doesn't return. If we are coming from a place of an imprint that says, I'm not worthy of putting this thing out there in the world and no one will come, well, that's what you're going to put out there and that's what you're going to get back. Like the game, it's a game.
It's a game, yeah.
It's a game.
It's a game.
It's an energy game, which is I'm in alignment with what I want to do and what feels good for me.
Yeah.
And that is usually where it will land,
Yeah,
right?
you're right.
And in many times, like courses I've run, when I'm feeling good, I'm feeling in alignment, this feels really good, they'll sell out easily. I don't even have to work hard. And then other times, and I've learnt this the hard way, where I'll put a course out there and I'm like, oh, I'll do it because it'll be the money or I should. And then barely anyone signs up. And it's those times where I'm like watching it going, actually, if I was to get really clear here with myself, what am I feeling? Well, I'm feeling actually I don't want to do it. So then don't do it.
Yeah.
So I think we can have all the things, but they're not all the things, because the energy piece to me is the biggest part.
I agree. I feel like you need strategy and you need the things like to have the business, but so much of it is your nervous system, your energy, your mindset, doing this inner work, holding the woman behind the business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the freaking hard part.
Super hard.
The actual work part I find easy, in that, like the delivery and being with people, but it's all the weekly, especially when you're a mum, like you said, the energy and emotion management and feeling supported and well resourced too. But I guess that's why too, if you choose to conscious parent and have a business, it's like which one gets the most energy. If its values aligned with you want to pop it into parenting, then the business has to just fit in, like you say. It can't be. It's hard.
When my kids were little, so I had 3 kids, 8 and under, and it was an intense time of really when I really was doing a lot of healing work on myself, but also as a parent with my kids. It required a lot of energy and space of listening to feelings. And I remember at that time going, there actually is no space for my business now. And I pulled back for a bit because I was like, the family unit needs me to be as calm and regulated as possible so everybody else can do their stuff. It really dawned on me, whoa, I am the barometer of the family here. And if I'm not good, no one's good. So I pulled back for a while, for a year or two. And I was like, all of that can wait for the moment, because actually what's really important here is us, this little unit, our connection, the holding, all those kind of things. And then when that shifted a bit, then I stepped back in and it was a dance. And yet, again, I look back and just see the absolute wisdom of that, because it was needed at the time, you know. And yes, there would have been another reality of Lael that would have been like, why do I have to do that? Why is my husband not having to hold as much as I do? And he gets to work. And, you know, there were times where that was real and alive for me. And then I would also come back to what feels really important now is just this, and I'm going to trust the timing of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that the layer of that in this day and age is when you see everyone else on social media, which is like the 5%, and you're like, well, they're doing that though, but then maybe that woman or mother is the sole income earner and their kids are in daycare all week and the partner's retired. Like every family unit has a different way of operating and you don't know that through the screen. And so I can see where the feelings come in, because I felt like that too. And I think too, when you start a business, it's not linear. Like you think it's just like, but it's up and down and everything changes. And I think that's what I love actually most about having my own business is the fact that I can, and I'm in the position to say, I'm just going to put that down for a minute, or I don't have to do that at the moment. Because a lot of people don't have that. But that's the reality of women and mothers in business is every family looks different, doesn't it? Depending on all the things we've spoken
we
about.
only show the happy, good side. I mean, like, think how many filters are there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, it'd be great if you could walk around with this filter on your life all the time. I'm like, I look great with that filter on. I think we show a side because we're trying to prove to ourselves we're cool, or, you know, like, I think it's the comparison piece is really, really tricky. Really tricky because we're thinking, well, I'm not enough because it's not looking like that.
Yeah.
My kids aren't behaving that way. My house doesn't look like that. I'm not cooking like this. I'm not making that much money. Like, it's a game, and we actually need to keep coming back to ourselves and going, what's important here?
Yeah.
I'm going to stay in my lane, do what feels good for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to circle back to imprints again. Were there any imprints that you were like, I really want to change this so as not to pass it on to my children?
Yeah. The money one was a big one. Wanted to change that. I really wanted to change the stories around boundaries and self-care because mine was shit. Really, really crappy. Amazing mum, powerhouse, really, really crap self-care. Never modelled taking care of herself, always giving to others. It was amazing, like that beautiful giving I watched and witnessed from her, but she never actually showed me what it was like to take care of myself. So I was like, I'm going to change that. And that really shifted for me when, like, my first born is a son, and then when I had a daughter, I really thought, my goodness, who she's going to be based in on the world is me. And what am I modelling to her about taking care of her needs, all those kind of things. So self-care was a massive one, and then boundaries was huge because I had no boundaries because I was a good girl. So I grew up being a very good girl, keeping everyone else happy. You know, people need to like me. Like, that was a huge part, which is many, many women, you know, in many generations, because that's the narrative that we've been taught for a long time.
Yeah.
And so changing that, you know, letting them know that they have a voice, they can use that voice, their voice is welcome. They were big imprints that I wanted to change. I mean, actually, probably everything I write about in the book is what I've had to shift and change. Imprints around intimacy, sexuality, I really wanted that to be something that could be spoken about. So that was changed as well. Success around, I never felt the pressure that I have to be a success, but I really wanted to keep carrying that story for them and I've said this to them from the moment they're born, you can make money doing anything. I really do believe that. Find what you love. And when you are in flow and you love it, there'll be a way to make money, you know, and so that's what I've told them their whole lives. So I think, there's been those beautiful ones there just around themselves, around knowing their worth, who they are, setting those limits, all those kind of things.
And in terms of this work and imprints, does it just keep coming up? Like, now that you are 50, is it just like new layers or new things, or what does it look like?
Little nuances.
Yeah.
So I feel like the big things have shifted, but then there's tiny little pieces that pop up and I go, oh, that's interesting. There's still a little bit of a thread there. So there's big ones that have definitely shifted and changed, and I've seen so much evidence of that change. It's not often, but occasionally there's little threads of stuff that pops up and I go, oof. Like, actually writing this book was painful.
I can see that in the big sigh.
It was, talking about what it brought up, it was painful. So teenage me was alive and well through this book. And the imprints around not being smart enough turned up a lot in this book because I was working with a publisher this time. And so they come back with their edits, they come back with their changes, and every time they'd come back with something, I'd take it as an assault that I wasn't smart enough, I'm not a good writer, because I'm a speaker, I'm not really a writer. I mean, I've written 2 books, but I see myself more as a speaker. And so I had stories, imprints from my own, you know, education that I wasn't very smart. And even though I did fine, I wasn't as smart as the smart people.
Yeah.
I was emotionally intelligent, really emotionally intelligent at school, but academically I was like, I don't give a shit really. So, and so that came up when you create something like a book or anything that you do, those stories pop up around your worth and you're good enough. So I was challenged a lot with it, you know, because I just wrote it and then they'd come back with, we want to change this and we want to do that. And I was like, I'd get offended and then I'd get angry. And then luckily I didn't reply. I would be like, what's here for me? And then I'd have to work through my layers of who's here. Like, this is teenage me. And this is teenage me thinking it's not good enough. And this, you know, so that was a big thing that had to surface a lot for me. So I was really doing my own work as I was working through that. But other things are not, they still pop up occasionally because we all still get triggered. There's times where we will lose our energy. We go, oh, there's something there.
Yeah.
And I think that will happen till the day I die, right?
Yeah.
Because we're human and we're having a human experience. But I feel the difference is I have the tools to
Yeah.
really work with them now, and that's what feels different. It doesn't paralyze me like it used to, or it doesn't make me collapse in a way that it used to. Now I'm just like, all right, come on, let's look what's
do the
here.
dance. Yeah. Oh, goodness. That's a good point to bring up. So in the book, you talk about the dark soul of the night.
Dark night of the soul.
Dark night of the soul. Get
Yep.
right in. See, there's mine coming up. Teenager. Not smart enough to.
You're welcome.
Thanks. I'll go and deal with that later. So tell us more about that, because I can really resonate with this. And everyone doing this work, I guess, needs to know that this could be something that pops up. I guess that's why it's the start of the book.
It's not could, it will.
It will.
Yeah. So dark night of the soul is it's a concept that's been around for many years, and you can, different texts or different things will talk about it. I guess how I talk about it in the book is I talk about it in the concept of levels of consciousness, and the levels of consciousness is something that I actually learned from my mum and some of her training, and you could, she learned it. You can look at Jung's work, or you can look at lots of different stuff to see it. So again, I just feel like we all borrow from each other's work and then we bring our own lens on it, which I think is
totally.
We just are all like, and it's how we interpret it and then how we bring it into our work. So the levels of consciousness is something I've heard my mum talk about for a long time. She's worked a lot with archetypes, and I've just seen it to be so true in all the clients that I've worked with. And really, she talks about it, that we have this way of being, which is kind of more of an unconscious way of being, which is most of us on the planet, right? And she phrases it as a tribal mentality, in the sense of that when we're in this unconscious way of being, we're all very much about, we care what everybody else thinks. We're often into gossip, talking about other people. We think our worth is the way we look or our bank account. We often blame everybody for everything else that goes wrong, so we can be quite the victim. We're often, we get angry and everything's polarized. Like, it's pretty much the state of the world today, right? Most people are in this unconscious way of thinking, which it's like everyone else's fault. They don't take responsibility for their life. There's a strong belief system of life is not fair, right? And so that is the majority of the world. So then what happens is we kind of sit there, right? We all bond over our wounds, and that person's an idiot and I don't like them and all that stuff, right? That's how we're kind of raised. And then what happens is we have some form of crisis. And that crisis is either we get sick, we become a parent.
I was going to say, we have a child.
We lose our job, someone we love dies, something big happens, and it kind of rocks our foundation. And this is what we talk about as the dark night of the soul. What happens is who we think we are starts to be shaken. And all of a sudden, all the things that we used to do don't satisfy us in the same way anymore. We feel wobbly, and we start asking the questions, well, who am I, and where do I want to be, and what does this mean? And we start really kind of moving more into this inner reflection of, well, what is this all about? So with this dark night of the soul, we kind of move into this other way of being, another form of consciousness, which is usually working with our subconscious on some level. And my mum refers to it as the individuation level of consciousness. And in this individuation level, we're sitting in a place where it can feel very, very lonely, because it's often all about us thinking, it's in our mind, it's really about who am I and who do I want to be and what does this mean? It's when we start reading books like my book, or looking at imprints, or looking at your nervous system, or start doing the work. You start going, actually, what is this? And why it is the dark night of the soul is because it's all the crutches that we have around us kind of feel like they're taken away from us, and we actually have to be with ourselves. We have to be in the darkness to be like, who am I? Now, nobody likes being there. So what we do is, because we don't like being there, we go, oh God, this feels really hard. And then we try and reach out to others who are in similar spaces. Now, sometimes what we do is we turn towards our family of origin or the people we know and go, oh, this feels big. Now, if they're still sitting over in this column, they're going to look at you and go, what are you doing? Why are you even going to yoga? What's this breathwork rubbish? Like, why are you even doing this? And so what they do is they try and pull you back into this way of being because that's familiar. And so what happens is, often because you're shifting and changing, it usually mirrors to them that they're not. So then they make you wrong. And so this is where people often feel like the black sheep, or they feel like no one understands me because everyone else over here, and these guys are not wrong. They're just doing what they need to do, right? So we're over here going, I don't know. And so then they pull us back in, and then we come back into the fold again. We hang out for a bit, and then we start gossiping again. And we're like, yes, doesn't feel good. And then we switch back into this column. So we often will do this dance, right? We're pulled back in. We go, oh, I belong. And then we go, oh, but it doesn't feel good. So it's not uncommon to kind of swing back and forth for a while. But then as we keep doing this deeper inner work, as you begin to set boundaries in your life, as you begin to take care of yourself, as you begin to uncover these imprints, these ways of being, we begin to actually really assess who am I and who do I want to be in the world, then we get to move into this third column of being, which Mum refers to as a symbolic way of being, which is a conscious way of being, where we actually start to live our life in a way of from consciousness, which is where we live our passion. We are of service. We have beautiful dedication to our disciplines. It's not hard to get up and meditate because you're like, this is actually what feels a yes for me. We don't judge where others are because we know that everybody's exactly where they need to be. We take full responsibility for our stuff. We own the places where we mess up. We take accountability for our feelings. We're no longer the victim. We start really looking through the lens of, why is this going on in my life? What do I need to own in this? What is the growth in here for me? We can hopefully ideally raise our kids with more consciousness. We can be with their feelings. We can meet them where they're at. We realize that when our child's upset, it's not because I'm a bad parent. We're realizing there's something going on. How do I work with that? And I think we would all love to be in this symbolic way of being, right? But we actually have to do this inner work here to be able to get there. And the reason why this inner work feels really, really hard is because it's often just about you. And you kind of can't take anyone with you. So you can't take your partner to do it, and you can't take your mum to do it. And you are there often on your own, which is why it feels like the dark night of the soul, because it's really getting you to reassess who are you and what are the stories we've run and what are the games we play and who do we really want to be. And even if we can stand in this symbolic way of being for a while, we can easily get swung out of it. I mean, I just say go to a family function and hang out with your family, and usually within 10 minutes you'll be back over here.
And then you get alone and you're like, what am I doing?
And then you kind of come back. So we can swing easily. And, but I think we have awareness of it. Whereas often over here we're not even aware that we're doing that. And again, it's not right or wrong. I think it is, and not everybody wants to do it. Like, there's people in my family who don't want to do the work. And that is okay. I love them for who they are. They do not have to do it. For me, it's really important that I want to live a life from this place. I've learnt and seen enough and worked through enough crap to go, that's actually where I want to come from. But you often have to go through some form of crisis or something to actually help you do the inner work to shift and move there.
How do you go with the couples that you support when one is doing that and the other one isn't on board?
It is so hard. If I had a magic answer for this, I wouldn't have to work anymore. So I think this is a bigger picture question because, and I often look at it this way, I explain it this way. We come together in partnership. I think we come together to go, hey, you're cute and we'll make great babies and all that kind of stuff. And yes, there is attraction, but we often choose our partners because they mirror our childhood wounds so beautifully that we come together to do some deeper work.
Is this a session?
We often come together to work through our deeper stuff. And that's why we get triggered with each other. That's why we push each other's buttons, all those kind of things. And then potentially what happens, we fight, we have children. So usually we have that first kind of relationship marriage. It's fun, it's great, we're going to build this future together, it's going to be awesome, it's great, we're doing our things, getting our needs met. And then we have children, right? And then it's all of a sudden the big dark night of the soul pops in because we're not often getting our needs met. We see the different values start to turn up and we're raising our kids. We see our own childhoods come forward because we're having to parent now. So if those wounds are not dealt with, they'll show up in our children. And we've got stresses, financial, time, all the kind of stuff that goes on, right? So we're put under the crunch. Now, either we learn how to work together, we own our stuff, we thrive, or we start to create tension within each other and in the family unit because it's often too painful to look at our childhoods, right? So we turn away. We just go, I don't want to deal with it. And you just need to do what I want you to do so I can stay safe. So then usually from what happens in these relationships is one person will start to go, this doesn't feel good and there's got to be more. And they start doing more of the deep work and they start sitting in that second column of individuation of looking at their stuff. And then they often turn to their partner and they're like, come do the work. Like it's here. Now, occasionally the partner will go, oh, okay, yep, I like it, but I'm going to do it. And you end up doing the work together. That's ideally what we want. But a lot of the time, what happens is the partner's like, and they turn the other way.
Yeah.
And then we've got one partner going, here, read this book, listen to this podcast, do this course, go and speak to this person. And we're working so hard to try to get them to change.
Yeah.
And what I have seen over many years is no matter how hard you work, if that person is not invested in wanting to change, it is never going to stick, right?
Exactly. And that goes for everyone, doesn't it? Not
100%,
just
it's not just partners, right? That could be your mum, it could be your brother, it could be anyone, right? Because you can't make someone do the work, only you can do your work. So then what happens in relationship, right, is, you know, there's one person that's wanting them to change, the other one's like, don't try and make me change, and we've got all this stuff going on. And so, you know, there's usually three options that happen. One is we stay in that dynamic and there's resentment and there's power struggles and we just unconsciously travel along and it just feels messy and sticky and it doesn't feel good, right? But we stay there and we don't actually push and do the work because we're trying to keep our partner safe.
Yeah.
As in, I don't want to force you or push you to do it. It's easier if I just dim my light.
Yeah.
Now that usually doesn't go well because we end up getting sick or stuff happens because we're not living our truth, right?
Yeah.
But that's one option. That's a lot of people. The second option is a partner. We have these big conversations and we say, hey, I want to grow. I want to do it. And, you know, my husband and I, we've been together for like 28 years. We've had those conversations where I'm like, I want to grow. I want to move forward. And, you know, I remember one time my husband's like, I don't ever want to hold you back, you know. And I'm like, no, mate, that's not the answer. The answer is I will come with you. Yes. And I'm like, rise, dude. Come on, let's go. And he's like, okay. And bless my husband. He's such a beautiful man. He's like, and he even says it. He goes, yeah, Lael does all this work and then I kind of come hopping along afterwards.
Saying,
no, come on, babes. Come on. And he's very willing to do it. He's amazing.
Yeah.
So there's that second option where we do it together. Or there's the third option where we realise that maybe we are on totally different levels and maybe we're not actually meant to be together. And I know that is so terrifying and heartbreaking, especially if you have children. Sometimes we come together to make beautiful children and that is the gift, right? What is very challenging, and I see this in a lot of relationships, is where one partner is willing to do the work and the other isn't.
Yeah.
And this push-pull thing happens.
Yeah.
And I often say to people, look, you have to keep doing your own inner work. And as you keep doing your own inner work, even if your partner doesn't, it will become clear. Either they will lift and rise and you'll move together, or it will become so abundantly clear from a place of deep love that you're not meant to be together anymore. And that's where things shift and change. Now, I know that that's not what anybody wants, right?
Yeah.
And again, I have a lot of compassion because when you think about how we come together as a couple, we come from our big family unit of imprints. And you know this because of the work you do too. Most people were not raised with emotional awareness at all. I would say 99% of people were raised in environments where they were not given the tools to deal with their feelings.
Definitely.
And so then they come into relationship together and all the wounds get opened up, right? And it takes a lot of courage to be brave enough to do the work, to lean into it, to do it. And sometimes we need support, we need therapy, we need counselling, we need other things to do it. But one of the big things that I see, which I'm sure you see as well, is women often take on the role of being the therapist and the coach and the counsellor to get their partner to shift.
Yeah.
And it's very unsexy, right?
Yeah.
And it also doesn't feel good.
It doesn't.
Because you're like, it's not my job. My job is to be your partner. I want you to do the work willingly on yourself.
And I think from a partner perspective, you're also like, I can see how being this way isn't serving you in our life. And so you want them to be able to see that on the other side of that hard stuff, when you put the mirror up, that is so freaking scary. And it's so much safer to just keep going how you're going. But on the other side is like the pot of gold in that you're moving through it, as you said. Yeah.
And I think we come often into a relationship and we see the potential in our partners. We can see, like I used to say to Mike all the time, if only you could see yourself through my eyes, you would see how magnificent you are. And yet he had to be willing to look at all his story within it, you know. And I think we come with this really beautiful intention of like, this could be it, and we try and we do all the things, but actually every person has their own journey of whether they're willing to move or not. And again, I don't have any judgment around that. I think we are all doing the best we can. I have this thing I say all the time. If we saw a person and we could see behind them and understand and feel into every part of their story, we would not judge. We would probably do exactly the same as what they're doing, because
Yeah,
we'd be
that's
like,
right.
I can see your trauma, I can see your pain.
Yeah.
So it's complex and it's tricky. And I think at the end of the day, all we can do is keep doing our own work.
Yeah.
And sometimes that is enough to model it, to shift, to keep growing. Sometimes it helps us to get really clear on what we do want. It's really hard though.
It's so interesting too, because in the fact that when you sort of sign up and you go, yep, I'm willing to do this work, and you start to do it, I can find it's happened to me, and I see it in other women as well, that you can do it too much, and then it becomes like another lesson in that, whoa, hang on, I'm doing this too much. Is this my need to try and control, or like what's coming up here?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting how it all can unfold.
We have many blind spots. I
That's why you need a coach. Everyone needs a coach,
They
I
do.
think.
They do. We all need people to be able to call us out on our stuff.
Yeah.
We all need people to help us see where we're trying to stay innocent in things. That's not me. That's not my problem. Or just that there's stuff we don't want to look at. And I think we do need that accountability of someone that we really trust to be able to say, what about this? And what do you think there?
Yeah.
Because, we're all very invested in being right.
Yes.
Very invested in being
It comes
right.
back to that, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, this book is honestly so amazing. I feel like this could be a beautiful starting point for people to read together.
Yes.
And then instead of getting into arguments with your partner to be like, well, you do this and you do this, it's like, well, let's actually understand our imprints and our stories, because then our behaviours, our thoughts, our emotions might actually make sense to try and tackle it together instead of me versus you type of energy. So I think that this book is so amazing for anyone to read. Thank you for writing it.
Yeah. Well, I hope that's the case. I hope it's a good starting place for people to go, where am I? And where is my story? And there's tools and ways in it to be able to help to start the conversation, to have some awareness. I think that's a really important thing.
Me too. Well, thank you. And thank you for helping me with all of this. You're an absolute gem, and we are very lucky to have you. So thank you.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, darling. Thank you.